The bad news arrived in religion class. We were in Brother Carmine Diodati's room that day when the radio report came over the loudspeaker. President John F. Kennedy had been shot in Dallas, Texas, and taken to the hospital. A short time later, we would learn that he was dead. We were all startled. No one knew what to say. I remember exactly where I was when I heard the news, and so do most Americans who were born before 1953. I'll bet there is someone in your family who can tell you what it felt like to hear the awful news that the president had been assassinated. Chaminade High School, where I was a freshman, was, and still is, an all-boys school, or young men, as we were called. So there weren't a lot of tears then. But the days that followed were filled with sadness and confusion. We had to go to several sorrowful masses and listen to lectures about the slain president and the tragedy that had befallen America. Mostly, though, we were confused. My life at the time revolved around sports and friends. I didn't think too much about national politics. I took pride in wearing the red and gold school colors on the field, did my homework, and tried to stay in line with the school rules. I don't remember talking to my friends about the assassination. Life was pretty simple in those days. For adults, the rules seemed to be these. You worked hard, obeyed the law, cared for your family, looked out for your neighbors, and respected your country. The Kennedy assassination shattered that calm sense of order. People throughout America were asking themselves and one another why it happened and who really killed the president. In 1960, when Kennedy was elected, I was in 6th grade at St. Bridget's Catholic School in Westbury, Long Island. Of course, his picture was on the walls of all the classrooms because he was the country's first Catholic president. And he was Irish to boot. I had Kennedys in my background. My mother's grandmother was Winifred Kennedy. And all American Kennedys liked to think they were related to this groundbreaking president. And because we were Irish Catholic too, my family felt a deep emotional tie to the president and his family. Soon after JFK was elected, there was a scary change at the school. 3 months after his inauguration, there was a standoff between Russia and Cuba and the people of the United States. And we were afraid there would be a nuclear war. To prepare for this, we had fallout shelter drills at school. When the bell rang, all the kids had to file out to the school parking lot. If a war had started, buses would take us to an underground bunker. There would be other showdowns during JFK's presidency, as well as times of family relaxation. And it seemed as if we were in on all of them. There were photos of the president in meetings, walking with world leaders, speaking around the world, sailing on his yacht, and playing with his children. He was a very glamorous figure, young and energetic. He had style. And his wife Jackie had even more style. Kennedy was friendly with the press and let them show what his life was like to the folks. He was our first president who liked to be on television. And it was television that kept the country in touch when JFK was assassinated. After the killing, my mother and father, like most Americans, were glued to the TV. For 3 days after the 1:40 p.m. news bulletin on November 22, 1963, America watched. Walter Cronkite, the most respected man in TV news, had broken into the broadcast of a soap opera to announce the shooting. All the major networks showed the return of the president's body to Washington, D.C., his funeral mass at the Cathedral of St. Matthew, and his burial at Arlington National Cemetery. Not a single commercial was aired during those 3 days. My father was not enthusiastic about the new president, Lyndon Johnson. My mother was sad and mostly worried about Jackie Kennedy and her 2 young children. To me, JFK was a distant figure who died in a terrible way, although many of the photographs of that day have stayed with me always. It wasn't until I got to college that I began to be interested in politics and in how great men like JFK met the challenges that were thrown at them. Bill O'Reilly, New York, June 2013.